And we'll get lost in the blankets. Feel sweeter than honey, sweeter than wine. Getting me drunk on the taste of summertime. Feeling real good, feeling just right. Talking about the queen of angels by my side. You've got that everything.
Hi there, my name is Leah Lodato, and thank you so much for listening. Fit Pet Boston Talks is a podcast featuring Boston, Massachusetts area dog handling professionals, and we chat about our lives, our dogs, and our careers. By trade, I'm a dog walker and dog trainer. This podcasting project is a great way for me to connect with other professionals and bring our genuine conversations to your ears. I hope that the stuff we talk about on this show will inspire people who are already working with dogs, but I also hope to reach those who are thinking about entering the industry. Of course, I also love to hear that folks who just love dogs are finding useful information in these stories we share. Thank you, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy. It will help me to keep going. This episode features Renee Reyer. Renee is a professional mobile pet groomer and is a trusted business referral partner. She owns her own business, Transfurmations Spa, and you can find her on Facebook. Now, she is also a very good friend of ours. You are listening to Sweeter Than Honey by Zach Bowles. Zach is a local singer and songwriter. You can find more of his music at zackbolles.com. The song will play in its entirety after the interview. We are rolling. Hi, Renee.
Hi, how are you, Leah?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for sitting down with me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. You want to talk about dog grooming?
Of course.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. So Renee, you're a really, really cool person. I love the little pillow that you have in your van. It's the most perfect pillow, and it says "Girl Boss."
Yep.
And to me, you're like the epitome of a girl boss. Like, you just absolutely love what you do. Take the bull by the horns. Super motivated. Obviously run a successful business. So can you just tell us a little bit about your business, maybe how you got started, from where you got started to what you're doing right now, and just, talk about grooming and why you love it and anything you're willing to share.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure. So I actually had a lot of customer service kind of hospitality background before I even got into any of the animal kind of practicing. I worked for super well-known 5-star, 5-diamond hotel in South Florida, and realized if I wanted to be successful in that job, I had to commit my life to the career. And I just not interested in staying in one place for 15, 20, 30 years. That's just not me. It's not my personality. I actually also don't do well under the cloak of like a corporate structure. That's not my personality, as you probably know. I'm kind of more of a free spirit, so I don't really follow the rules so much. I actually first started in a doggy daycare. So it was a doggy daycare and VIP hotel. They had the suites with the televisions all decked out. And they had a grooming department, which we were responsible for doing kind of just the basics, bathing and doing nails before dogs went home. And that led me to kind of piquing the interest of the pet grooming portion of it, kind of having more only of the positive experience with the pets and nothing negative. And it took me a while, I'm not going to lie. I think I did the research for the 2 top grooming schools that were in my area that were both in South Florida. Probably took me another 4 or 5 years before I actually enrolled.
Oh, wow. So you were at the daycare for 4 or 5 years before you switched
Made
over
the switch.
to... Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of personal kind of, a marriage that wasn't great. So that kind of took my focus away from me and what I really was passionate to do. So I did the doggy daycare, I did some waitressing on the side, kind of kept that hospitality background, and finally pushed myself to enroll in the school. It was a great program. They had a part-time and a full-time program, so I kind of combined the two to do a fast track. So I think I completed the program in 9 months. I was going pretty much every day they were open for 9 months straight.
And what was the name of that program?
It's Merrifield School of Pet Grooming. There's pretty much only 3 in the country that are recognized as, actual pet grooming schools. Like the academies that they have at PetSmart that don't really follow the same curriculum. That it's Merrifield. There's one called Nash, and then there's the Paradigm School. And these all follow a pretty strict regimen and protocol. They're eligible for financial aid. So they're government, accredited programs to learn the trade, the safety aspects of it. I mean, that's really super important when you're talking about pet grooming. It's not playing with fluffy puppies all day. You need to know how to react in the case of an emergency, whether that's an underlying medical condition that the pet has, or it's something that unfortunately you caused. Sometimes we're working with, sharp objects. Pets are moving. Accidents do happen. And if you don't know how to, control the bleeding or any of those things, you can really put yourself in a scary situation.
Yeah, so a lot of it's first aid and husbandry on that level.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as far as the pet grooming school, do you feel that a lot of the things that you learned would be like show grooming as far as, I guess I'm trying to like very quickly figure it out in my mind when I watch Westminster or something like that, and each individual breed is to be groomed in a certain way. Is that something that you kind of go through at the school that you're at, or would that be more of like a specialized program? How did that work with part of your education?
Actually, we were taught specifically breed standards only. I was taught by Irina Pinkusevich, which is one of the top Russian groomers in the world. She's won tons and tons of accolades. So that was one of my instructors.
How was she? Was she like, walking the park?
Hardcore, super like brought me to tears. Like there was multiple times during the program where I was like, this is not for me. I can't do this.
Yeah.
You get a lot of self-doubt. I mean, she's just like incredible. She's all over, television networks and everything. Michael Lamb, who's one of actually the top miniature poodle breeders in the country. I believe several of his dogs were at Westminster. I don't know if any of them actually made the final cut, but
can we talk about that dog that won?
I didn't even watch it.
Did you see a
But I
picture
do know
of
it
her,
was
though?
a standard poodle that won.
Man, she looked so cool.
Yeah. I feel like people have gotten so away from the purebred dogs because there's so many kind of designer breeds where they're cross-mixing. Great breeds that are excellent individually, but people don't realize what the poodles were bred for. And actually, someone put out a really nice article after Westminster that people say, I don't want my dog to look like the stupid poodle haircut. But what they don't realize is the stupid poodle haircut is form and function. If they knew what they were bred for, they might not think that way. But we really we're responsible to know every single breed that's recognized by the American Kennel Club. So that's strictly purebred dogs.
AKC, yep.
AKC. And also what was supposed to be the faults, what would make them ineligible to be, recognized in the American Kennel Club.
And ineligible based on their cut or based on
if they were, if they had bowed feet or if they had an underbite.
So you were studying not only the way to groom the dogs, but also what would be a good candidate for even going to show.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we were responsible for writing papers. Every week we had to turn in the entire breed standard. And then before we could actually receive our diploma, we had to groom, I believe it was 2 breed standards. So we had to groom a poodle, a Bichon, a terrier, and I believe a sporting breed. I can't even remember now. It's been so long. But you couldn't even get your diploma until you could breed all of those to standard.
Groom them
To standard, sorry. Yeah, so that was kind of nerve-wracking.
Intense, yeah.
In and of itself, too. It took me a while. I think I did 2 at school, and then I went into my apprenticeship, and I completed the final 2 while on my apprenticeship, which was at a small salon in Juno Beach, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
So starting down in Florida, how did you eventually make your way back up here?
Okay, so I worked in a salon for, that was like another 3 or 4 years, because the school teaches you a lot, but in that time constraint of 9 months, you can't learn everything, and you're not going to see every type of dog with every type of temperament. So you have to kind of go into your apprenticeship, work, and get more experience, and you need to learn from other people's methods as well. You can always pick up tidbits. I'm still picking up tidbits in the industry from other professionals. So I worked in the salon for 3 or 4 years, thought I was going to take over, but then kind of decided, God, I don't like this style of grooming. It's very assembly line style grooming. You're taking 30 and 40 dogs in a day, and they all get shoved into crates. And then one gets bathed, back in the crate, the next one's bathed, back in the crate, then you go back and you dry a few, then you start the first haircut. People are calling, is my dog ready? People are walking in, can I get a nail trim? The phones are ringing off the hook. Super high tension, stress. The dogs are barking constantly. Very hard to stay kind of focused and calm. And any good groomer will tell you that body language, it reflects back to the pet. And if you're kind of high strung and stressed out, the pet's going to feel it, and it could be disastrous. So I started to kind of think, okay, the whole reason I went to pet grooming school was because I had used a mobile pet groomer for my own pets. And so why did I get away from the whole idea of doing the mobile, vision of it? And I think it's because I had been in the salon, so then you kind of forget that there are other choices out there. There's house call, there's mobile, and then there's, stationary brick and mortar. So I started to save up all my money for my waitressing job, all my money to buy my own trailer to start, because that was basically the most affordable way to do it. And then I thought to myself, okay, do I really want to stay in Florida? There's a lot of seasonal clientele, so it'd be really hard to have like a consistent 12-month business. And I knew I didn't want to stay there to raise a family. So I got on the phone, talked to my mom, talked to my brother, who were still local to the area, and said, okay, what do you guys think about? I'm going to come up there and start my own mobile pet grooming. And they thought I was bonkers. They just thought I was nuts. Like, Renee, you haven't been here in over 10 years. You don't know anybody anymore. What if it doesn't work? You're going to move your whole entire life up here? And I thought, well, what do I have to lose at this point? So made a Facebook page, made a website, got in contact actually with a mobile pet groomer who was based out of Tewksbury. And she said, oh, great. I'm full. And my girlfriend who works out of Billerica is full. So we can send you all of our referrals. And neither of them did cats, which is another specialty that is very rare because cats are extremely dangerous to groom.
So you don't do cats?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm crazy.
Yeah, I have a funny cat grooming story, actually. I dog sat for these people one time, and they had a cat, and I met, you meet and greet first, and so I met them, and they had a cat, and the cat looked like, I don't know if it was a Mancoon cat. I don't really know cats very well, I got to tell you. Then when I went to the house to, take care of the dogs and whatnot, the cat had been to the groomer, but it was completely unsuccessful. And basically one side of the cat was shaved and the other side was not.
Oh, God.
And maybe you can explain why that would happen. Because they are, like you said, dangerous.
They are. They're extremely dangerous. I mean, obviously, when you think about cats, they don't love water. Generally, there are a few that are kind of kooky and do, but they don't love water. So you're putting this thing in the tub, dousing them with water, blowing air in their face. I mean, cats aren't even social pets. They're kind of they could care less if you exist or not. I mean, if you watch all the memes on the internet, they'll just knock your stuff off the table. They don't care. They're just there and you can, wait on them and that's all. So I've never had to stop a grooming unsuccessfully that way, where it's half-half. I have had to go back, in several sessions for each stage of the grooming, because what happens with cats is people assume that they groom themselves. And so they don't call the groomer until the cat is
disgusting
15, 16, 17 years old and say, my cat has a few mats. Can you come take care of it? When in all actuality, the cat is pelted. And cat skin is paper thin. So it's not the same as a dog where you can just rough it with a short blade. You have to be extremely careful. Cat skin has to be completely stretched out. And if they have their claws, which if you're humane, they still do, you have to watch out for claws and teeth and keep their skin taut and shave them at the same time. So it's not normally a one-person job. I basically won't take on cats unless they've had a history of grooming their whole lives. Because it's just too dangerous. Their mouths are filled with bacteria. So if you get bit, you're going to the ER and you're getting IV antibiotics. It's not something that you can just clean with peroxide. And usually when they bite you, it's down to to the
The
bone.
bone.
Yeah, they know how to really get you. So I do cats, but on a very limited basis.
So do you have a couple of regular cat clients at the moment? I'm fascinated by this. This is going to go off on
Yes,
a tangent,
actually,
but-
I do. I do. I had quite a few Maine Coons. Unfortunately, they've since passed. But now my big ones are, I do a Persian Himalayan mix. They're usually the long-haired. So the short-haired domestic, even when they're grooming themselves, they don't build up a ton of dander, and they don't really necessarily need to be like brushed and combed the way some of your like Persian, Himalayan, those kind of breeds, they really need to be brushed and combed on a regular basis because the mats form at the base. So you can't just, clip them out. You have to shave the cat down, and you really don't want to shave a cat down, although I do have some people. I have a couple that like the lion trim. It's not my first choice. I prefer just to bathe, blow dry, comb, do the ears, do the nails. So yeah, I do have probably close to a dozen regular cat clients right now.
So a regular cat grooming would be like once a...
They usually can push it for like once every 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, once every 2 to 3 months because they're indoor pets too. So they're not rolling out in the dirt and things like that you see with dogs that are just kind of picking up debris from the environment being outside.
Right.
Only one of my clients walks their cat on a leash.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
And I guess the more, I guess you could say, coveted breeds of cat, you wouldn't want to let them go outside to rough it. A few of my clients have outdoor cats.
Okay.
They're, I think, rescue cats are
Right.
They just look like a normal cat to me. But I'm gathering that some of these more expensive house cats wouldn't go outside.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. They're the kind that have their little pillows that they can perch on and watch from
Afar.
inside. Yes. Kind of like our little toy pocketbook dogs.
Right. Yeah. Big. It's really dangerous if you do let them out. I've had a few people that their cats have gotten attacked by coyotes, and in West Medford, because it's so close to the fells, there's always signs up that people are losing their cats because there's just such a threat of coyotes now.
I know.
So yeah. Anyway, I did not know that you did that.
Yes.
Amazing. I have tried to groom a cat before. I'm not going to say it was unsuccessful because I got the soap and water on and rinsed. They didn't need to be like shaved or anything like that, but not fun.
No, it's like nerve-wracking. Like your heart is
not at
beating
all.
out of your chest. It never becomes like a relaxed kind of. You're always on guard. You're always watching. I mean, the other thing that people don't realize too is cats' level of stress. If they get too stressed during anything, a grooming or whatnot, they can go into cardiac arrest. So if you don't know the signs to watch for,
You can kill the thing.
you can kill a cat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super scary. It's so much more involved than people realize. It's not just a bath. I mean, if a cat becomes that distressed, and if you don't know how to watch for the signs, and I always tell people that right up front, an hour is the absolute most any cat will ever give you. So if it's needs to be shaved down from excessive matting over the course of its lifetime, they just need to go to a vet and have it sedated for the cat's safety and for the groomer's safety. I mean, that's the way it has to be.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of really great information. Yeah. I'm not a cat person, so probably wouldn't apply to me, but I know that it's I didn't even know that you did cat grooming. I'm still like totally blown. Okay, I'm going to get off of this topic because I do want to talk about dogs.
Like, I don't know if I have any pictures from the last upload. I think I do. One of my new clients, Winston. He's super sweet. Yeah, you'll have to check it
Cool,
out.
I'll check them out. All right, so getting back to the dogs, and your journey from Florida up here. So you were based off of referrals from a few people that hooked you up in the beginning, and I find that nowadays that's a very common thing, especially for groomers, because you guys are just like completely booked. I have clients asking me on a regular basis, like, where should I go for grooming? And I have just a few referrals, and half the time, they're on a month to 2 months out. So I definitely know that it's a thing that's in demand, especially I feel like where we are, suburbs of Boston, getting dogs that require grooming is becoming more and more popular. And I don't know if maybe you wanted to speak to that a little bit. I know that you're a big poodle fanatic, and the more I spend time with poodles and doodles, the more I'm kind of scratching my head as to why folks are so keyed in on the doodle breeds because I think that poodles are pretty cool and require the same maintenance, I guess, as a doodle. But I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to your clientele, the type of dog that maybe needs to be groomed, and kind of what you see on a regular basis working down, I guess, closer to me in like Woburn, Winchester, Medford, that area.
Well, I think the doodle craze, first it started, I mean, if you don't know the history, there was a breeder in Australia who worked at one of the top Labrador kennels. I don't know if it's in the world. I can't speak for if it's in the world or just in that region. And he had a California client who was sight impaired, and she needed a hypoallergenic dog. So he did a practice breeding and created the first Australian Labradoodle for the sight impaired woman, and it worked out wonderful. And then it kind of caught wildfire, and it just became a designer breed that everybody wanted. I mean, this is the same as when we did Cavachons was a big thing. It just kind of cycles into what is the latest and greatest breed. And I think the appeal for most people is that they are sold as hypoallergenic. But you can't say that it's hypoallergenic. A poodle is hypoallergenic, but a Labrador and a Golden Retriever are not. So if they're mixed with a Golden Retriever or a Labrador, there's absolutely zero guarantee that you can predict the coat type that you're going to get. And my personal experience, specifically here in New England, is that 90% of the doodle hybrids that I groom have intense, insane allergies. And when I say allergies, environmental allergies, food allergies, just allergies, just constant medical attentive issues that they have to deal with. So not only are you spending a fortune for the dog that needs to be groomed on a much more regular basis than your average purebred dog, but now you're dealing with the additional expense of having to deal with chronic ear infections or just environmental allergies, allergy shots, pills that they have to take every day, and really needing to be on a high quality diet. So I'm not sure why the craze has continued. I think it's just now so commonplace that, Susie and Joe have a doodle, and my cousin Jane has a doodle, and the guy down the street has a doodle. So I don't know if it's almost become like a status symbol of the dogs. Like you have to have a doodle to be, in the group. But it's not stopping. It's just kind of crossing over to other breeds. So it really was the Labradoodle and the Golden Doodle were the most popular. Now they've bred them down to miniatures. So now they can be as small as like between a toy and a miniature poodle. And that's just the constant breeding of the smaller, sire and dame to get them smaller. But now you're talking Old English Sheepdog cross. Bernedoodles, Wheat Doodles. Yeah. Gosh, what else?
That's called a woodle.
A woodle, sorry. I'd have my own names for all of them, but anyways.
So not to say that you're a breeder by any stretch. I know that you aren't, but I know that you also know a lot about this stuff. A miniature doodle, that would be a small poodle bred with a smaller lab, or are they breeding like two doodles together?
That's when you get into the F1, F2.
Yeah.
So it could initially start with just picking a small dog from, each breed. But when you get into like the F2, then it's a Bernedoodle to a Bernedoodle. So then they're really trying to pinpoint a coat type or a specific size. I mean, we share some of the same
color
clients.
is a big thing for people too.
Yes, definitely. But I mean, hair texture. I mean, we deal with some of the same clients that have dogs from the same breeders, and they look nothing alike, but they're from the same exact breeding. So you just never know. You never know what you're going to get.
And I think that, to touch on something that you said a little earlier, I think that it's the behavior of the dogs that people really gravitate towards, because despite the fact that I would probably never get one because of the health issues that I've seen, they are great family dogs. I mean, one in a few we have that are behaviorally challenging for sure. But I think that as far as just being a low maintenance, not requiring a ton of follow through with training, good with kids, I think you never know for sure when you get a dog if these things are going to happen. But if you have a family that has a doodle or maybe even two and they're cool, you know, another family might come over and say, hey, your dog is pretty cool, you know, and I feel like that's how sometimes it gets perpetuated. But can you compare, and I didn't mean to make this podcast and advertise for poodles, but I've been really passionate about this for the last couple of months. And now that, you know, the poodle won Westminster, I'm just kind of like, go poodles. Can you kind of compare as far as the things that you spoke about? So like allergies, general health issues, do you see the same type of things? Obviously your sample size isn't huge, but you've dealt with these dogs for a long time now. How the poodle breed compares with the doodle breed on those issues?
None. I've seen no issues. To be honest, the only purebred dog I've seen issues with, aside from the doodles, have been dogs that have immune suppressed issues. So like Cushing's, things like that. And then they're on medication that kind of causes the fungal infections and things like that. But aside from that, maybe one, she is a Schnauzer cross poodle. She's a schnoodle. That's it. Probably the schnoodle and the doodles. I only groom one, believe it or not, purebred standard poodle, and he has no medical issues whatsoever. I've been grooming him since he was about 12 weeks, I think.
And also to clarify for folks, just because you have a poodle doesn't mean that you have to groom them
Like
to
a
look
poodle.
like you don't have to give them a poodle cut.
And the thing is, there's many poodle cuts. When people approach me with a doodle and say, just don't make him look like a poodle, I ask them, what does that mean to you? When you say don't make him look like a poodle, what makes a poodle look like a poodle? Because I think the first thing people think of is the continental trim, which is what you saw. I think his name was Seba.
Yeah, I think it was a female.
Okay,
but I'm not.
that's what you saw
100%.
in Westminster. That's a continental trim. That's the trim that they use when they're retrieving waterfowl. So, and there's a number of reasons for it, but that's one of the trims of a poodle. There's a lamb trim, which is basically the same as a teddy bear, which is what we do on almost all of our drop coat kind of small toy breeds, Havanese, things like that. And then there's the clean face and the clean feet. That's a pretty significant feature of the poodle. But
the lamb trim doesn't have the clean face.
no,
Yeah.
it has a full face.
It has a nice like beard.
Right. And then you have the German trim, which is like a little bit shorter. Usually you do the clean face on a German trim, and then you do like the shorter tail. You know, there's so many different kind of elements to the poodle trim. There's a bunch. There's Miami, Continental, Lamb, and then there's the puppy cut, which is what most people say they want on their dog. And then I tell them a puppy cut refers to a poodle. And a puppy cut just means one length all over, and it's usually hand scissored on a poodle that's, 6 months or under, just to initially get them used to. You don't want to cut off that puppy coat. You want to wait for it to gain its proper texture. So, I always do wonder what their perception of a poodle cut is when they say, don't poodle my doodle, is kind of the ongoing kind of joke in the grooming industry.
Yeah, and to just give you an idea of how negligent I was heading into this whole dog experience that I found myself in, when I was introduced to a group of dogs, a few of them being doodles and other standard poodles, the standard poodles were not groomed like poodles, and I did not know they were poodles. Now I can tell by their size and their facial features, and even by the way that they stand, their legs. To be around a well-bred poodle, it's like they have a certain air about them. When we brought Ruben home, there were two that he was exposed to very early that were two brothers. I think Olaf definitely and Harry, and they had just gotten groomed. Again, not to look like poodles. I don't know what the cut is you'd call it, but they had a nice beard and a short coat. And I just remember them both like standing there staring at the puppy, and they're big dogs. And it was just like, it's so cool. Like when you're around well-bred poodles, there's something about the way that they interact with, their human. I feel like they kind of attach themselves to their family very well. But I don't know if I could say anything. If you're thinking about getting a doodle, if you're going to spend the money anyway, because that's the other ethical thing that kind of drives me a little bit crazy, is that the doodles are very expensive, some of them. And for not really knowing the genetic material that's being put into both of them, I think is people don't think about that risk, right? When they essentially adopt one of these dogs. I hate to say that, but
we don't even know what their lifespan is. I mean, if they're having issues so young and then we're just pumping them with medications to mask the issues and manage them, what's their lifespan going to be like? I mean, hip dysplasia, you're breeding two dogs that are completely different sizes, heights. I mean, they don't do hip testing. They're not reputable in that way. They don't. I mean, the people that I have that have encountered the issues with their doodles have reached back out to the breeder and gotten nowhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that should tell you right there. I think that's more what hurts me about it is that a reputable breeder does not charge you a fortune for your dog. They care about maintaining the breed standard, maintaining the health of the dog. I mean, even if you look at some of the breeding of German Shepherds, how that's just gone down the toilet. I mean, they're so downset in their hips. I mean, they have dysplasia when they're like 2 years old. So I think that's more where I get upset is that the breeders are not outright lying, but I feel like they're very deceitful. They are charging a lot, and they're not telling clients that, how much effort is required to keep the coat. I mean, some of them send them home with this manual that tell your groomer, this is how to groom a doodle. This is the purebred doodle cut. A doodle's not purebred. It'll never be purebred. It'll never be recognized by the American Kennel Club because it's not a purebred dog. There is no standard of grooming for a doodle because you don't know if you're going to have a wire coat, curly coat, straight coat, shedding coat, non-shedding coat. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I can't even name 2 doodles, and I groom a lot, not even 2 that have the same coat type. And I groom some from the same breeders. So, I mean, I think that's what more upsets me is that people are spending so much money, like you said, and you don't know the life expectancy. You don't know what you're going to get from the dog, and you're probably not going to get the support from the breeder, which is sad.
The allergy issue is a big one because it would almost be easier if the dog had a heart murmur, right? Because it's like, okay, this is what it is.
Right.
Don't breed this dog anymore, or you know how to address it, you know how to fix it. Allergies are so elusive. And, sometimes the dog could be fine. Then other times the dog could be having diarrhea. And then other times their eyes are watering. And then other times they have a yeast infection. And then they'll go 2 months and nothing will happen. So it's like really difficult for a vet to diagnose. And it's difficult for people to even like read an allergy test. And then, we've had people that get these allergy tests back and they're like, oh, so my dog needs to be fed this really special food that's going to cost me $15 to $30 a day just to feed my dog. And that's like a real thing. Like these are real scenarios that I've come across, and it's like, oh my goodness, you have the upfront cost of, acquiring the dog. Now the dog's part of your family. So it's not like you're going to give the dog back. And then on top of it, you have all the anxiety and then try and diagnose. And then when all is said and done, you're thousands of dollars in the hole. And then your dog has to eat this like really special food.
The dog's eating better than the humans in some cases.
Hands down.
I mean, they really are.
Hands down.
They can only eat bison and tripe and, the most exotic kind of, fowl that we can find. It's just like obscene, but
it's tough. I mean, I think that they're great dogs. And I think that, taking 2 well-tempered dogs and mixing them together, like, sure, that, it seems like it would kind of be a good idea. And I have to say, like, I handle a lot of doodles that I'm just like, they're just great dogs, there's no doubt about it. But health, number 1. Number 2, I think, and I'm wondering if you can speak to this a little bit now, I think a lot of people get their dog and don't realize the commitment that they have to make to grooming. And they don't realize like, oh, I've had my dog for a year or 15 months and they've never been to the groomer. And then you get them and what happens then?
That doesn't happen anymore. That happened when I first got into business.
Yeah, because what do you say to them now? Like,
Right.
no way. I'm
Yeah, your dog needs to start with me like 8 weeks. 8 to 12 weeks needs to be the first grooming. Period. End of story.
Can you just go through like why it's important to get your dog acclimated to that type of environment?
So I say 8 to 12 weeks, especially with any breed that's going to need to be groomed on a regular basis. And when I say regular basis, I mean like 4 to 6 weeks. So every month to month and a half. We're doing a lot. We're kind of doing a lot of things that make them uncomfortable, which also is why not every dog is excited to see us, because it's a little unnatural for them, some of the stuff that we're doing. But we want them to not have a fear of grooming. And I have found in my experience, the longer you wait and the more terrible the condition of the coat, the more fearful the dog's going to be for the whole process. Because now if they're covered in mats that are all the way to the base of the skin and we're having to take the shortest blade that we have to remove the mats, not only have they been in discomfort for God knows how long because those mats are pulling at the skin, they can lead to infection, bacteria, lots of things underneath that are grungy and gross and you don't want to think about when you have your dog sleeping in bed with you. But it's brutal. It's brutal for the dog. So I always tell people, if you start at 8 to 12 weeks, we don't even have to do everything. I do what I like to call the puppy basics. So I'll do the bath and the blow dry, because the blow dryer can be a little bit scary, and we want to be able to put it down to low if we need to kind of get them used to that. And then I don't typically do any trimming for the first 3 haircuts. It usually takes 3 appointments before they're comfortable. But what we do is we run the clippers just so they can feel the vibration, the sensation, and kind of get used to the sound. And then I do the nails and the ears, check the teeth. These are just really important things. Dental health is a big thing to me because people don't realize, dental health in dogs, if you're not maintaining your dog's dental health, you can cause major health problems down the line. I mean, if that bacteria gets into the blood, you're hurting their liver, their heart. That's how heart murmurs can occur as well. And so I do brush teeth. That's part of my service, but I do have to tell people brushing your dog's teeth once a month isn't enough. I mean, if you brushed your teeth once a month, what would happen to you?
Nobody would come near me.
But yeah, so to me, it's important just so that the dog can have more of a positive experience with grooming.
Yeah,
I feel
it's like part of socialization.
Exactly. The longer you wait, the more terrifying everything is. And when a dog's matted, it has to come off. So you can't just do we'll just do a simple bath and blow dry. No, because you're just making the mats worse. And in good conscience, we can't leave that on a dog's, we can't leave them with mats. That's not humane. And it's also not humane to brush them out either because it pulls at the skin and it's just, so I always try to educate people in that way without coming across as like, this is the way that, my business runs and it's this or nothing at all, but it just has to be. It's for the pet's, betterment in the end. So I do have strict rules when I'm encountered with certain breeds. They have to be on a certain schedule. Otherwise, I'm not the groomer for them. And that's not to say that they won't find someone that's willing to work with them, but I don't do 3 times a year shave downs on doodles. That's just not what I'm known for. It's not what I want to be known for. I like to keep my pets in kind of stylish personality trims. I want them to get compliments when they go down the street, not, oh, your dog got a puppy cut, because that's what normally people refer to as a super short, shave down on a dog. That's, when you look at my work, that's not a whole lot of what I do unless it's client request.
Yeah,
So,
I remember a couple of families when they got their dogs back, not from you, either from us or somebody else. The groomer had to take the coat down because it got to the point where it was just, like you said, there gets to a point where you can't run the brush through it, so you have to just shave the dog. And I found, especially for young children, they have mental breakdowns when they see their dog because their dog looks totally different.
yes, nothing like anything. Yeah.
And it's absolutely crazy. And even for me, sometimes, I'll see a dog, walk a dog and then come back a couple days later and I'll just be like, oh my goodness, this looks like a totally different dog. And oh my goodness, you need to feed the dog more.
That was all hair.
Yeah, it was all hair. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about the coat texture? Because I know that there are some dogs that you groom and you're able to keep their doodles and they're able to keep the coat a little bit longer. And then others like really need to have that like closer shave. What about the coat texture kind of keeps a dog able to have a long coat versus something that you really have to keep trimmed down a little bit shorter?
So I feel like when they have any type of wiry coat, it's much easier for it to come out with like a really good deep conditioning treatment or even just the help of the blow dryer and the brush. I think I have 2 that have a wiry coat. The rest of them have a really, really soft coat. So any dog that has a little bit of a wave can usually go maybe a couple weeks longer. And then any dog that has like a super tight curl, more like in the poodle coat type, needs to be like 3 to 4 weeks. And that's if the pet parent is doing no at-home maintenance. But I do recommend that people be brushing and combing at least several times a week. Again, it's just so that we don't get to kind of fall too far behind. And then I'm spending an hour trying to, brush and comb out little knots because then they just don't like me. And I don't want to be disliked. I want them to be happy to see me and not, think of it as this kind of grueling, torturing process. So for pretty much any doodle coat, I always, always recommend they use a slicker brush. And I find, again, that's something where we kind of drop the ball with the breeder because they're not recommending any products for them to be using at home. They're just saying, don't cut the hair for the first year. And when you do, give your groomer this manual to tell them how it's supposed to be cut. Because a lot of them want the kind of natural, ungroomed look. But that requires way more maintenance than any other haircut you could possibly imagine. If you want that kind of look, your dog needs to be brushed and combed every single day. Brushed and combed down to the skin. And I think that's where we kind of have the mishaps with the at-home maintenance, is that not every groomer can teach the pet parents proper brushing techniques.
Well, and even if you do want to have that as your status quo, you still need to scissor around the dog's like private areas and, their face if you don't want to be completely grossed out, just so that they don't have bacteria or, waste just hanging out. And then depending on what you do with the dog, like if the dog's going swimming or hiking or anything like that, it's just going to mean more care. Whereas, like, we have 2 dogs at home that have a relatively short coat, and we bathe them frequently because we're psychotic about them being clean. But, we definitely take care of them in that way more than the average person.
Absolutely.
would.
Average person with a smooth-coated dog is like 3 times a year, I'm good. But
seasonal.
Yeah, exactly. Quarterly. Okay, whatever you want. So...
can we talk a little bit about your van? Because you recently, it was 2 years ago that you...
It'll be a year and a half next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went from, when I first met you, you had a trailer that you hauled with a truck.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool because you can detach the trailer.
Right.
And then just use the truck as like your car. Did you do that with your truck or?
I did, but I actually had a personal car too.
Okay.
So
kind of went out the window anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my end goal was always to have the van. It was just a lower kind of upfront cost to get the trailer, kind of get me up and running. I already had the SUV, so it was like, okay, let's do as little investment as possible just in case this doesn't work and I end up with my tail between my legs back in Florida. So that was really the initial kind of allure to the trailer. But always, always, always was my end goal to have what I have now. And yes, it is great to be able to detach and kind of pick up just in case you have any mechanical breakdowns. But this is just so much more state of the art than my trailer was. My trailer was just like what you needed to get going. But this...
It's literally like you walk into your van and you could be in a grooming salon.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it is completely outfitted.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah. And it's funny because people who have never experienced mobile pet grooming or maybe used another pet groomer in the past, because we all do things a little differently. But people, when I get there, they say, okay, where do you need to hook up to my water? And how do you need to hook up to my power? And, do you need to bring your equipment in here? And I'm like, I'm good. Like, just give me Fluffy and we're good to go because I have, just regular rated heating. I have a 30,000 AC, 30,000 BTU AC for the summer. So it's freezing cold in there in the summer if we want it to be. We've got, the super nice lighting, the electric table. So I can do, big dogs or just dogs that are kind of geriatric. The table goes almost all the way to the ground. So that's super helpful for those dogs. And it's electric. So I can lift them up and they walk right into the tub, which is also outfitted with a platform for my big guys who might have some hip issues. And they got the blow dryer. We've got the rad music. We got the speakers in the back. We got the aromatherapy machine going. So,
and it's all plastic inside, so it's easy to clean too.
Basically, yeah. So, you just wipe down all the walls, and then I have it deep cleaned, professionally detailed once a month. I just take everything out of the van, and I have a professional team come in and clean everything from ceiling to floor, front to back.
Which is awesome because building that into your price, I mean, grooming is so filthy that if you don't keep up with the cleaning, it's like can very easily just become completely overwhelming, I think. So that's really awesome that that's something that you invest in because I know that your customers appreciate it.
Well, and it's, part of the upside of mobile grooming too is that your dog is less prone to catch anything that they might be more apt to catch when they're in a, salon. They can't screen 30 and 40 dogs to see if they have parasites or staph infections and things like that. We're one-on-one, so I can see right away. If I see anything alarming, immediately the text goes out to the client, hey, Fluffy has an ear infection, or, this one has too much tartar on the teeth. And so I think that's what's really awesome about this is that we can catch, you never want to catch anything dangerous, but I've caught cancer on two of my clients' dogs. And thankfully they're both okay. They both were removed in time.
Wow.
But, we've got our hands on these dogs once a month. That's way more than the vet. Unless your dog has, those issues where they're going in for the monthly allergy medication and things, you're seeing your vet once a year.
Yeah, and I feel like because you're handling the dog, like literally every single part of the dog, you have a chance to feel for things. And, how often do you lift up your dog's foot and look at their entire bottom of their paws?
Right.
Like,
don't.
Never. It's not a thing that you do.
You don't look at you don't pull their gums up and look at their teeth. I'm doing that when I'm brushing them. It's so much more involved than I think people realize. People just like, oh, just give my dog a bath. But there's so much more that goes into it.
Yeah. Can you talk about, this will probably be our last grooming conversation, but can you just talk about what grooming entails? Because I do feel as though from talking to people that are either new doodle owners or, it's been a long time since they've had the dog. I think people tend to couple grooming with cutting. But what I've learned is grooming is like the whole package. So can you kind of run through all the things that you do when you interact with the dog, just so people have an idea of what how a groomer is looking at this job and what they need to do? Because obviously it's not the same dog to dog, because if your dog needs to have their hair cut versus, a short-coated dog, it'll be different. But there's a lot of things that are involved with grooming that aren't just like bathing and cutting. So can you kind of do the rundown?
Yeah. So like I said, continuing education is a big thing for me because there's always things we can learn in this industry. So I'm always taking any class I can take that has to do with any like medical conditions or just skin and coat problems and things like that. So I know what to look for. But I basically do an assessment throughout the entire grooming start to finish. So I bring the dog in. First of all, I'm going to notice if I have to carry the dog in, I'm going to notice if they've gained a little weight or if they've lost a little weight. Those are super important things, especially if it's something dramatic where it was just 4 weeks since I saw them. So first I put them into the bath. They get a hydro massage bath with premium shampoo. So sometimes that's medicated. Sometimes it's hypoallergenic, unscented, whatever, floats their boat. I'll do it. Then I do a tearless facial. So you really need to get, all of those kind of crusties that are in the, in the tear troughs and things like that. You want to get all of that out and make sure there's no bacteria, causing eye infections. Then I clean the ears and I'll pluck them if it's necessary. Ear infections are super big here for some reason. I don't know if it's just the drop ear or if a lot of dogs are swimming, but ear infections going. untreated can cause hearing loss. They can cause super major problems. So ears, then we check the teeth. Then I clip and trim the nails or clip and file the nails rather. And then I check the hair between the pads, check the glands, clean the sanitary trim, and then haircut if they need it. But the most important thing is through that bathing and drying process, we're really able to get all the way down to the skin where the hair is separated. And that's even on a short-coated breed. So we can see any lesions or anything that looks unusual on the kind of breeds that maybe don't need the haircut, but do need some light trimming, like a golden retriever or an Irish setter. We're able to see those, lumps and bumps that might be not quite visible to the eye and maybe not quite, able to see through touch or feel through touch. And so I've discovered a lot of things in that way. And like I said, the weight thing is pretty apparent when you're carrying a dog in or out or, just feeling them when you're kind of doing your general assessment. So yeah, it's not just a bath. And I think people don't realize how much we care, how much passion we have for this profession. It's not an easy job. It's backbreaking. I mean, I'm in excruciating pain on a daily basis because I'm standing for 10 and 12 hours a day, lifting dogs, bending over in awkward, unusual positions to make sure that they're comfortable. I mean, I've gotten into the tub with a dog before just to make them feel more at ease. We pretty much will do anything for our pets. I think of them all as my own family. And I'm heartbroken when they get sick and I'm heartbroken when they pass. I mean, I see them so often. They are like my family members, and that includes the humans too. When you're in and out of someone's house and you see them that often, you learn things about their children and their family and their travel plans and their, summer vacation, and you become so close. And I think it makes you care even more, because you really do have that close bond with them. They're trusting their loyal companions with you. So
yeah, I feel you on that one. And I know a lot of our clients are overlapping. So we have similar mentalities for sure when it comes to just caring about the whole package and not just, getting in and out and doing your job. And yeah, grooming is not easy. I wish I could do more of it. But it's physically, it's a very physical job. I think that that's something that you wouldn't know from the outside, because I do also feel like people kind of lump pet groomers in with hairdressers, and it's not the same. You're dealing with an animal, they're moving, they're not comfortable, they need to be lifted. Luckily, you have the lifts in your car, in your van, but even still, I mean, just getting in and out of your car multiple times a day and, working with your body, as somebody who knows, it's a tough gig for sure. So you have to like what you do. Do you have any tips for people that might be interested in getting into the industry and either working for somebody else or starting their own thing? Do you have any pearls of wisdom?
I would say definitely start as a bather, because that's another job I think that gets overlooked. Bathing is pretty intense. It's just not a simple bath. It's just not. Dogs don't, like water in their faces. They're snapping at you. They're refusing to stand. So you're, hoisting them up at 75 pounds for 20 minutes for a bath. So a bather is a great way to kind of understand the physical demands of the job. And then my best advice is just get professional training, because people don't realize how intense the industry is. They just think, I can do this. There's even people who trim their own pet's hair. Hey, that's fine. But if you cut your dog's ear, with scissors because you don't know how to hold the ear leather to trim the edges, then that's on you. But just get professional training, because there's so much that goes into it. And there are so many parts of the job that we need to understand and be aware of, the injuries that you can cause or create and how to avoid them. Yeah.
Yeah. Good tips. All right. Lastly, I would love to talk about your own dogs. That's an important piece of every interview that I do with folks. So who do you have at home and what are they like? In a nutshell, I know there's a lot of personality around here. So can you just talk a little bit about your guys?
Yeah. So I have Xena. She goes by the nickname Green Bean. She is a rescue. So we think she is a lab cross plot hound mix. We rescued her from a really well-known dog rescue called Big Dog Ranch in Florida, and I think like a bunch of country stars and everybody has rescued from them. But she was tied to an AC unit somewhere in South Florida, so she is terrified of the rain and storms even to this day. I mean, we've had her forever, but she is the best, most loyal dog I've ever owned. Never trained her a day in my life. I know Lori would kill me if she heard that, but she is always by your side. She listens to every command. She's so great with Gabriel. I mean, she just doesn't care as long as you love on her. So she's quite the personality. She's a total goof, and we love her. And then we added Speed, who goes by Mick Deeds.
That's a good name for him.
Mick Deeds is good because he's kind of like that old crotchety look. Speed, he is not. He is not speedy at all. He is slow as molasses, but he's ancient now. So that's probably why. I got him when I was working in the dog show world, practicing to learn to compete, to kind of become like an all-star groomer. And I went up to a Schnauzer breeder in South Florida and commented on one of her dogs. It was just absolutely the most stunning, gorgeous, jet black miniature Schnauzer I've ever seen. And she said, "Oh, I have one I'm trying to rehome. Would you like to come meet him?" And what you experienced when you got here is exactly how he was when I met him. Just like growling and barking and very Schnauzer-like. Any Schnauzer owner will tell you that's just what they do. And he's never stopped. He's 14 now, so we've had him since he was 7. And he's awesome. You just have to kind of understand the breed. I think people get nervous because when they're groomed to breed standard, they look a little scary, a little sketchy with the angry brow and the beard, the muscle tone and the beard that's kind of like grungy. He gets a modified trim now since he's older. I just want to keep him comfortable, but he will put up with anything too. That little boy kind of, goes over and tugs on his beard and ears, which I don't promote, obviously, and I'm always standing right there, but he just, same thing. He just loves the attention, and those two are just the best of buds. I mean, the fact that Xena knows she has to be careful around the little one because he's older and smaller, and she'll jump over him. She'll never trample on him, and the dog walker's always commenting how lovely they are. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we love
awesome.
them. Yeah,
it's great that when you are able to bring a child into the family, that everybody acclimates to one another, because
right.
Can be a very scary thing for people that have dogs and then they bring a child in and it just completely upsets the apple cart, But
which I think sometimes is going to happen no matter what. But I think a lot of it is just kind of how they've had their life prior to that. So if you've kind of exposed them, like you're saying, like conditioning and socialization, and just expose them to different situations and scenarios, it kind of better prepares them. I did all the little quirky things that you're supposed to do, bring home the baby blanket with the baby smell and let them lay with it and all those things. Who knows if it helped? Who knows if they would have been, wonderful regardless. But I do know that can be a scary thing, and people have had to get rid of their pets for that. So we're happy that they all love each other.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, thank you for sitting with me today, Renee. This was amazing. I'm sure that we could probably talk for another hour solid. But I feel like that was an awesome baseline for what it is that you do. And your journey has been really, really cool and super inspiring for me to watch you have such a successful business. So thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it.
Every kiss from your lips is a little bit of heaven coming down from above. From your waist to your hips is a whole lot of patience. There's no need to rush. Like curving down a back road, taking it slow, easy on a Sunday morning. Let the worries of the world up and go, and we'll get lost in the blankets. Go sweeter than honey, sweeter than wine. Getting me drunk on the taste of summertime. Feeling real good, feeling just right. Talking about the queen of angels by my side. You've got that everything, the kind that makes me stop and see how lucky. Look at that smile, look at you, girl, look at this life. Well, they're calling for rain coming in off the coast, and that's alright by me. On a long cold day, what we need the most is to keep good company. sipping on something and turning the lights way down in the evening. We can listen to the rain running off of the roof and get to that good feeling. You're sweeter than honey, you're sweeter than wine, getting me drunk on the taste of summertime. Feeling real good, feeling just right, talking about the queen of angels by my side. You've got that everything, the kind that makes me stop and see how lucky. Look at that smile, look at you, girl, look at this life. You're sweeter than honey, baby. You're sweeter than honey, you're sweeter than wine, you're getting me drunk on the taste of summertime. Feeling real good, feeling just right, talking about the queen of angels by my side. You've got that everything, the kind that makes me stop and see how lucky. Look at that smile, look at you, girl, look at this life. You're sweeter than honey, babe, you're sweeter than honey.